BPD, you're not broken, you're learning. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our channel. We're grateful to have you here with us for another video. If you find this content helpful, please tap the like button and consider subscribing. Your support means a lot and helps us reach more people. Let's talk about something that millions of people struggle with, but rarely gets the understanding it deserves. Borderline personality disorder. If you have BPD or think you might, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are learning. The world often makes people with BPD feel like they're fundamentally flawed, like there's something wrong with their core. But that's not true. What you're experiencing is your brain's response to trauma, to invalidation, to experiences that taught you the world wasn't safe. Think about it this way. When a child touches a hot stove, they learn to be cautious around heat. Your emotional responses work the same way. If you experienced abandonment, betrayal, or emotional invalidation early in life, your brain learned to be hypervigilant about relationships. It's not broken. It's adaptive. The intense emotions you feel aren't a character flaw. They're information. When you feel that overwhelming fear of abandonment, your brain is trying to protect you from pain it remembers. When you struggle with identity, it's because you learned early that being yourself wasn't always safe or accepted. Let's address the shame that often comes with BPD. Society tells us we should have our emotions under control, that we should be consistent in how we feel about people and situations. But emotional regulation is a skill, not a given trait. Some people learn it naturally through secure relationships. Others have to learn it consciously as adults. You know what's remarkable about people with BPD? Your capacity for empathy is often extraordinary. You feel everything so deeply because you're wired to pick up on emotional nuances that others miss. This sensitivity that feels like a curse can actually be a superpower once you learn to work with it instead of against it. The splitting that happens with BPD, where people seem all good or all bad, isn't manipulation. It's your brain's way of trying to make sense of complex relationships when you never learned that people can be both good and flawed simultaneously. This is learnable. You can develop the ability to hold complexity. Relationships feel impossible sometimes because your attachment system learned to expect inconsistency. When someone is kind to you, part of you waits for the other shoe to drop. When they're distant, your alarm bells go off. This isn't you being difficult. This is trauma responding. But here's what's incredible about the human brain. It can rewire itself. Neuroplasticity means that even if your early experiences shaped your neural pathways in challenging ways, you can create new pathways. Every time you choose a different response, you're literally rewiring your brain. The fear of abandonment that drives so many BPD behaviors makes perfect sense when you understand it as a survival mechanism. If your early relationships were unstable, your brain learned that closeness equals danger. Of course, you develop strategies to prevent abandonment, even if those strategies sometimes push people away. Self-harm and suicidal ideation aren't attention-seeking behaviors, despite what ignorant people might say. They're attempts to regulate unbearable emotional pain. When you don't have healthy coping mechanisms, you use what's available. This doesn't make you weak or manipulative. It makes you human. The emptiness that many people with BPD describe isn't because you're hollow inside. It's often because you learn to disconnect from your authentic self to survive. When you spend years adapting to what others need you to be, you can lose touch with who you actually are. But that self is still there, waiting to be rediscovered. Identity disturbance in BPD often stems from never having a secure base from which to explore who you are. When your energy goes to survival and avoiding abandonment, there's little left for identity development. But identity isn't fixed. You get to choose who you become, even as an adult. The intensity of your emotions isn't something to be ashamed of. In a world that often feels numb and disconnected, your ability to feel deeply is actually a gift. The goal isn't to feel less. It's to learn to surf the waves of emotion instead of being pulled under by them. Therapy can feel frustrating because progress isn't linear. You'll have breakthrough moments followed by setbacks. This isn't failure. This is how healing works. Every setback teaches you something new about your patterns and triggers. Dialectical behavior therapy was specifically designed for people with BPD because traditional therapy often didn't address the unique challenges you face. DBT teaches you that you can hold two truths simultaneously. You can accept yourself as you are while working to change. You can love someone and still need boundaries. The 4 modules of DBT, mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness, are skills that everyone could benefit from. You're not learning these because you're broken. You're learning them because no one taught you earlier. Mindfulness for someone with BPD isn't about achieving some Zen state. It's about learning to observe your thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them. When you can notice that you're having thoughts of abandonment without believing their absolute truth, you create space for choice. Distress tolerance skills acknowledge that sometimes life is painful and you can't fix it immediately. Instead of making impulsive decisions to escape pain, you learn to ride it out. This doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means not making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Emotion regulation isn't about controlling your emotions. It's about understanding them, working with them, and expressing them in ways that don't damage your relationships or your goals. Your emotions are valid. How you express them can be skillful or unskillful. Interpersonal effectiveness teaches you how to ask for what you need, say no when necessary, and maintain relationships while staying true to yourself. These are skills most people learn through trial and error. You're learning them systematically. Recovery from BPD is possible. Studies show that with proper treatment, most people with BPD see significant improvement. Many no longer meet the criteria for the diagnosis after several years of consistent work. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming more fully yourself. The stigma around BPD is real and harmful. Mental health professionals sometimes avoid working with BPD clients because of misconceptions and lack of training. This stigma can make you internalize shame about your diagnosis. But having BPD doesn't make you untreatable or hopeless. Your relationships don't have to be doomed to failure. Yes, BPD creates challenges in relationships, but many people with BPD have loving, stable partnerships and friendships. It requires both people being willing to understand and work with the unique dynamics BPD creates. If you're in a relationship with someone who has BPD, understand that their reactions often aren't about you. They're about their history and their fear. Consistency, clear communication, and patience go a long way. But you can't heal someone else's trauma through love alone. For those with BPD, learning to communicate your needs without expecting others to read your mind is crucial. People can't support you if they don't understand what you need. This means getting comfortable with vulnerability and direct communication. The perfectionism that often accompanies BPD isn't really about wanting to do things perfectly. It's about the terror of being criticized or rejected. When you believe that being flawed equals being abandoned, perfectionism becomes a survival strategy. Self-compassion might be the most challenging but important skill for someone with BPD to develop. You're probably your own harshest critic. Learning to speak to yourself with the same kindness you'd show a friend can be revolutionary. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep people out. They're guidelines that help relationships function healthily. For someone with BPD, boundaries can feel terrifying because they seem like potential rejection. But healthy boundaries actually make deeper intimacy possible. The black and white thinking that characterizes BPD isn't just about other people. You probably apply it to yourself too. You're either completely good or completely bad, successful or a failure, worthy of love or completely unlovable. Learning to exist in the gray area is part of recovery. Trauma-informed therapy recognizes that your symptoms aren't character defects but responses to experiences. When therapists understand this, they can work with your protective mechanisms instead of trying to eliminate them without addressing their purpose. Medication can be helpful for managing some BPD symptoms, particularly depression, anxiety, or mood swings. But there's no magic pill for BPD. The core work happens through therapy, relationship healing, and skill development. Building a support system when you have BPD can feel impossible. Your fear of abandonment might make you push people away before they can leave, or cling so tightly that you suffocate relationships. Learning to trust gradually and allow people to support you is part of recovery. Employment and BPD can be challenging because workplace relationships and stress can trigger symptoms. But many people with BPD have successful careers. It often requires finding environments that match your strengths and developing coping strategies for difficult situations. Parenting with BPD brings unique challenges and opportunities. Your emotional sensitivity can make you incredibly attuned to your child's needs. But you'll need to work actively to provide the stability and emotional regulation that you might not have received. The creativity and passion that often accompany BPD are real strengths. Many artists, writers, and performers have BPD. Your emotional depth and ability to tap into intense experiences can fuel incredible creative expression. Spirituality and BPD can be complicated. Some find great comfort in spiritual practices, while others struggle with the concept of acceptance when they're fighting for survival. There's no right way to incorporate spirituality into your healing journey. Exercise and physical wellness aren't cure-alls, but they can significantly impact emotional regulation. When your nervous system is chronically activated, physical activities that discharge that energy can be incredibly helpful. Sleep disturbances are common with BPD, often due to racing thoughts and emotional dysregulation. Developing good sleep hygiene becomes part of your overall emotional regulation strategy. Eating disorders frequently co-occur with BPD, often as another way to manage overwhelming emotions. Recovery requires addressing both the eating disorder and the underlying emotional dysregulation. Substance abuse can be an attempt to self-medicate the intense emotions of BPD. But substances ultimately make emotional regulation more difficult and can interfere with therapy progress. Self-injury serves functions for people with BPD that others might not understand. It can provide emotional release, self-punishment, communication of distress, or even a sense of control. Healing involves finding healthier ways to meet these needs. The suicidal ideation that often accompanies BPD isn't always about wanting to die. Sometimes it's about wanting the pain to stop. Learning to separate the pain from the solution opens up other possibilities. Crisis planning is essential for managing BPD. This means identifying your triggers, early warning signs, coping strategies, and support people before you're in crisis. It's like having a fire escape plan. Recovery milestones for BPD might look different than for other conditions. Maybe it's going a month without self-harm, or having an argument with a friend without assuming the relationship is over, or feeling angry without it consuming your entire day. Setbacks aren't signs that you're not progressing. They're opportunities to practice your skills in real-world situations. Each time you recover from a setback more quickly or handle it more skillfully, you're demonstrating growth. The goal of BPD treatment isn't to eliminate all difficult emotions or challenging relationship moments. It's to develop the skills to navigate them without destroying yourself or your relationships in the process. Your story doesn't end with a BPD diagnosis. It's one chapter in a longer narrative that you get to write. You have the power to decide what comes next, even when it doesn't feel that way. Many people with BPD become incredibly skilled at helping others because they've had to develop such deep understanding of emotions and relationships. Your struggles can become your strengths. The wisdom that comes from surviving intense emotional pain and learning to manage it is real and valuable. You understand things about the human experience that others might never grasp. Building a life worth living with BPD means creating meaning and purpose that transcends your symptoms. It means connecting with others, contributing to something larger than yourself, and finding joy even while managing challenges. You didn't choose to have BPD, but you can choose how you respond to it. You can choose to see yourself as broken, or you can choose to see yourself as someone who's learning to navigate a complex emotional landscape with courage and determination. The narrative that people with BPD are hopeless cases who will never change is simply false. Research, clinical experience, and countless personal stories prove otherwise. Change is possible. Healing is possible. A fulfilling life is possible. Your sensitivity, once you learn to work with it, can become one of your greatest assets. Your ability to feel deeply allows you to connect with others in profound ways, to create meaningful art, to advocate for those who are suffering. The journey of recovery from BPD isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself, but with better tools and understanding. It's about keeping your passionate heart while developing a wise mind. Every day you choose recovery, every time you use a skill instead of falling into old patterns, every moment you treat yourself with compassion instead of criticism, you're not just healing yourself. You're proving that change is possible. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your worst moments. You are not the sum of your symptoms. You are a complex, valuable human being who deserves love, support, and the chance to build a meaningful life. The world needs what you have to offer. Your experiences with BPD, as difficult as they've been, have given you insights and capabilities that others don't have. Don't underestimate the value of your perspective. Recovery is not a destination but a journey. There will be good days and difficult days. But each day you're learning, growing, and becoming more skilled at living with your unique brain and heart. You're not broken. You never were. You're learning, adapting, and growing. And that's exactly what humans are meant to do. If this message speaks to you, we'd love it if you gave this video a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribed for more meaningful content. Your support helps other people discover their path to healing. Thank you for being part of this growing community.